Hello and welcome to this amazing bonus episode of the Tapping into Abundant Success podcast. I'm Vicki Chisholm, transformation coach for women in business. And today I have an amazing guest for you who I know you're going to absolutely love. And her name is Lais and she is from theabundantchicks.com. So welcome, Lais. Tell us all about
Hello.
you.
Thank you for the warm welcome. I'm so honored to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you here, Lais. So when you think about being abundant, tapping into abundant success, I've noticed your
Mhm.
business name is actually Abundant Chicks.
Yes, it is.
So what got you started with that?
It was such a long journey. So I was in corporate before. I was always abundant because I was working in corporate. I was earning lots of money there, but I was so unhappy. I just didn't belong there. I felt burnt out. I didn't like the open spaces because I was an introvert. So I really didn't appreciate the whole office vibe. And at the same time, I didn't know what I was good at, what my life purpose was. Was in a karmic relationship, quite toxic relationship, the on and offs, and it was just terrible. It was in my end 20s, and everybody else was just rocking it in corporate, and they were settling down and like meeting their significant others. And I was just floating around, not having any clue. And I flew to Bangkok, to Thailand. And I just thought I will take a month off and I will heal myself. Like I will do all the meditations, the yoga, the energy healing, the EFT tapping, anything that can help me get out of that funk. And I ended up staying a year because I just loved it so much. And I just had this whole spiritual awakening and just really enjoying life suddenly again, just getting to know myself on a whole new, different level. And so I got qualified and certified in energy healing, in EFT tapping, in psychic development, space clearing. It was just this fascinating world to me. And then by the end of the year, I just decided I'll go back to Switzerland, where I was located, to open up my business. But people were like, yeah, but all the healers are broke. Are you sure you're going to enjoy that? Like being a broke healer? And I was like, no, I'm going to prove to everybody that even healers or women in spiritual businesses can be abundant. And I also told the universe, there's no way you're going to like leave me out here without any help. You're going to have to play your part. I'm going to play mine. And I told the universe, send me a sign that you understood my request. And I said specifically, I want an agenda, like a calendar, to physically input all my appointments for free. I wanted it as a gift. And a few weeks later, my best friend from the Netherlands sent me through the mailing this calendar to put in all my appointments. She didn't know anything about my request, so it just came out of the blue. And she never sent me any physical gifts before. And then a few days after that, I got another mailing through the post from my ex-boyfriend, the karmic relationship with whom I no longer was together. And he sent me the exact same agenda, the same calendar, exact same one. And he also didn't know anything about my request. So I was like, okay, universe and I are off to a good start here. And I just started channeling for my business, like really sitting in meditation and seeing how can I make this work? Like how do I get clients in? I started channeling my group programs and my one-on-one sessions, what I wanted to do, and just create my website, my blog. And so everything was just from the start divinely guided to make it an abundant business, right? From the get-go. And that is what I teach women nowadays. It's like how to tap into your own abundance. And it's not always just about the financial abundance. It can be the love, the health. It's just this abundance of feeling good about yourself and living the life you deserve to live, getting out of the karmic bullshit and all the trauma and the generational trauma we all go through and the past life trauma. And, there's just so much stuff going on that we are not even aware of. Once we tap into all of that and we balance our nervous system, which I know you also do a lot with your EFT, I'm sure, with the tapping, just bring people's energy back to center and just help women to be balanced, centered, and in a position to create abundance in whichever way or form. So yeah, it's my own journey of creating abundance for myself and then facilitating the same for women in return.
Brilliant. I love stories of true transformation. But what I love more about your story is you followed your intuition. You followed what felt right for you. And I do need to come back to something. I did just like sit down and make a note. So I've got to come back and ask this in a minute, but you're so beautifully in your flow. I do.
Go ahead.
So sometimes when people go into the I'm going to manifest energy mode and they're like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do this, but I don't know how. And then they get stuck in the how mode. You said that actually you meditated on the how, and that's how you got your answers. Whereas a lot of people, especially a lot of the big major gurus out there in the world, will tell you not to focus on the how. They will tell you to focus on trusting that it's going to happen. And so what was the difference between you deciding to meditate on the how and the big guru saying, don't worry about the how?
I guess, look, I'm half Brazilian, half German. I have both sides equally balanced. So I have the spiritual, spontaneous side that is my Brazilian side. I also have this very practical, grounded, pragmatic German side. And so when I'm manifesting, I want both. I want to know that I can trust the universe. I will have all the faith. I will visualize things. But at the same time, I need the practical. How do I get started here? Like, what are the actual steps, right? Like, how do I start this business? What do I need in place? Like, how do I create this program? What needs to be in it? How do I promote it? Like, you know, even the words, like, how do I attract the customers or the clients? So I'm very practical with these things. And I think indeed it lacks a bit in the spiritual world, this practicality and just really learning how to channel practical information that brings us forward, be it in business, career, doesn't matter, love life, everything. I'm very practical and it helps.
So I share a similar view in that obviously we have to take inspired action.
Yes.
But I do hear from a lot of the manifestation gurus out there, you know, and obviously, you know, they've got private jets, they're off doing the things they want to do. So obviously it works for them. But it really did make me sit back and think, it's interesting how you manifested on the house. So for anyone tuning in, anyone listening, what I want you to do is go away and listen to that piece of advice and actually, can you sit with the how can I make this happen? What do I need to do? And allow your intuition to guide you to see what answers you come up with differently. Now, the reason I ask you to do that is this is something I actually do with my clients.
So good.
But I don't tell them to sit and manifest on the how. What I ask them to do is tune in and say which method or which path is going to be best for you to do. So I share that value of actually listening to your own inner wisdom. Because if someone was to say to me, Vicki, I want you to go and do 90 days of going live on Instagram, and I want you to do 30 reels in between all of that, my inner maverick, which is a fuck you, would step in and say, yes, that's not going to happen because I don't know if that's right for me. And a lot of coaches struggled to work with me because I'm not someone who's just going to sit here and do as I'm told. I'm one that it has to be what fits right for me. Unless, of course, I'm dealing with resistance and then nothing's going to feel right for me. But at least then I had that story to tell of, well, this is not really for me, but this would be, or I'm resisting everything, so help me.
Love it.
So talking about resistance, when you think about the resistance that you've had to go through on your journey, how much of that have you had to face?
Oh, so much. Oh my God. Like my journey with the karmic relationships wasn't even over. I was still dating people who were not toxic, but it was just going nowhere, and it just derailed me the whole time from my business. I always had to commit myself back and concentrate on the business side of things, and then family, you know, dysfunctional family things, and that was just like constantly in my present moment, like ruining my little moments that I had for myself. And I had to learn how to step away and to let things be as they are, but still focus on my business. And that was like one of my major things that I had to learn, that life happens, but I still need to be focused on my business. And then also quite late, so I am an undiagnosed ADHD woman. You too. And, it just came out of nowhere because everybody around me suddenly started saying, oh, I just got diagnosed. And I said, wow, so what's the symptoms? And then they shared. I was like, yeah, that sounds familiar. And so I get just so easily derailed with everything. And I just have these strong emotions as well. I just feel everything so much stronger, I feel, than like neurotypical people. And so I need the tools to allow myself to feel what it is I'm feeling, but also to not over-identify with everything and to really process things adequately and let them go. Much more so than neurotypical people that I know and work with. And so that is a constant thing, this ADHD, of course, it's major. But other than that, I would say mental health, like really when I go into depression, like winter depressions, for example, and it's just an awful winter, and I use poetry to write myself out of it, like really express how I'm feeling in poetry on top of the other tools that I'm using. And so it's like, yeah, my life is just a constant acknowledgement of how I'm feeling in every moment, giving my emotion space, letting life be as it is, but also not like getting derailed too much by it the entire time.
I hear you. And I'm more on the recent side of undiagnosed ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
Friends have been telling me for years. I'm like, don't be silly. Of course I haven't.
Yeah,
What you on about?
exactly.
Something came up really recently, and it was actually like, in one of your ADHD moments, if I'm really easily distracted, I've just seen that, so I've got to go there, and I can't actually stay on task right now. And in this distraction mode where I was beginning to question, maybe they're right. Maybe I do have a undiagnosed ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
And something really stood out to me. And all of a sudden, it was like all the pieces of this major jigsaw puzzle had all just come together and clicked. And
It
that
did.
was women specifically with ADHD are more prone to PTSD and
Wow.
complex PTSD. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was
I
it.
love that.
That was it, because they never diagnosed my PTSD as PTSD. They went through, they were diagnosing me with stuff that was off the scale, and they had to backtrack because what they diagnosed me with was nothing to do with PTSD. But when I actually spoke to a consultant and said, I'm not happy with the diagnosis, I'm not happy with the treatment that I've been given. They were trying to give me medication that I took, and within 30 minutes, I was passed out on the floor.
Oh, gosh.
It was really bad the way they misdiagnosed me. But at
Yes.
the time, I was in recovery from domestic abuse, but I
Uh-huh.
was still having to co-parent. So I was constantly visiting
Oh,
abuse. And
right.
at that point, of course my emotions were up and down
Of
because there was no
course.
safety and there was no stability, but nobody picked that out. Nobody could see it. Nobody could say, listen, take this on board, look at what she's living through, look at what's going
Mm-hmm.
on. And then that had a massive impact. And I told you I was going to go on a tangent. I just knew this was going to happen today.
No, but that's good. I mean, it's
I
always
think
important messages that need to come out at the right time, and I think the listeners will appreciate. So,
I do think they will, especially
yeah.
because it's like a buzzword as well at the moment, isn't it? Undiagnosed ADHD.
Yes.
So what message would you give to women out there that might be curious whether they have ADHD or might be just downplaying that they have ADHD? What advice would you give to them?
I would say just really Google ADHD for women because it manifests very differently for women than for men. And especially in school, when we're in school as little girls, it just shows very differently. And that's why we are underdiagnosed. Because it's so much easier to see a boy who's like fiddling around, and say they have ADHD. But for girls, it's so different. And that's where I had this big aha moment suddenly. It's like, what? Like all my school problems suddenly just made total sense. So I would say start there, like Google, and you will get to many different pages and understand how it manifests for women. And then just see how it resonates. And you know what? I don't go out there every single day and I label myself as ADHD. I also see it as a superpower, to be honest. I do think we are wired differently. And I have this huge amount of creativity and just yeah, and I'm a multi-passionate woman, and I just have so many different exciting projects I work on, and maybe it's the ADHD that funnels all of this. I don't know, but I do think I have a superpower in that. So I don't talk myself down. I don't see myself as a victim of ADHD. It just explains, of course, the struggles I had, but I think I also have lots of gifts, maybe through that.
I
And
think as well, maybe because some people, especially some women, might see themselves as maybe having ADHD as a way to put themselves down and see themselves as different, and oh, you know, there's something wrong with you. There isn't. So maybe that's a message we could share today, is actually there
yeah,
isn't anything wrong with you
exactly.
because you struggle in a particular way. But one of the messages that we really wanted to share today is living a life of true freedom. And I honestly feel that if we can embrace who we are, whether we have ADHD, whether we don't have ADHD, whether we've suffered abuse and trauma or whether we haven't, whether we have PTSD, whether we have a curvy body or a skinny body or a fully programmed perfectionism, streamlined mind, or a completely magical alchemist mindset, I think we all have our own gifts for a reason. And like, I just want you to tell me something. What was it that empowered you to take the steps to live your life of true freedom, aside from Bangkok and the traveling and the journey and following your intuition? There must have been a point before that that made you think, I'm not living this life anymore.
Yeah, I love the question. So once I identified that I was trying to prove myself to especially my father, with whom I had this difficult relationship, and he was big in corporate. He had his own company, and I wanted to be like him, right, to make him proud. So I knew that as a young woman. I wanted his attention, his acknowledgement, and so I studied business, even though I'm a creative person. I should have studied something completely different. So I knew all that in my 20s, but still I also didn't know, what do I do then? What else do I do? So I was in this constant searching mode of who am I and what do I bring to the table in this world? Like, I didn't even know if I wanted to be of service. Like, I didn't know I would become a healer. I mean, that was just so out of the nowhere. It came out of nowhere. But I always trusted that I will just follow my intuition and I will land somewhere that will just honor my soul and my nomadic soul, especially. So I'm nomadic. I keep traveling and moving. Right now I'm in Sweden, but I've lived all around, in Thailand, in Bali, in Brazil, in all over Europe. And I wanted a business that facilitates that, and also the partner with whom I can do that. And so I really started working hard on myself to not attract any unhealthy relationships any longer, be it friendships, be it business partnerships, be it romantic life. I just didn't want any unhealthy people around me anymore. And also the partner then with whom I could travel and live in different places, and because that's my freedom. It's my freedom. I can work from anywhere. And the second freedom is more emotional, mentally. It's like really accepting who I am, even if I have a depression or even if I have strong emotions, or I don't know. When we start our healing journey, I thought, oh, I can heal everything away, and I'm gonna be perfect and all healed, and let's heal the world. And like everybody starts, I guess, on that point. True freedom came when I actually looked myself in the face and said, look, depression might not go anywhere. It might pop up here and there every couple of years, but I'm gonna love myself through it. And I know I can see the light at the end of the tunnel always. And same with any other obstacle that I face, be it ADHD now or anything else that pops up. The true freedom came when I know I can love myself with all the flaws. And I don't even see depression as a flaw. I see it as a portal that just brings so much growth when I'm out of it again. I always grow spiritually so much. So even the depression doesn't really derail me, because I know I'm gonna grow, or this is like a strong spiritual dark night of the soul kind of awakening. And there's not always just one of them, right? They just come sometimes in someone's life a few times. And true freedom is, we are here for all of it, it's a roller coaster. We just need to learn how to ride the good and the dark parts, and not put too much attachment to just the good moments in life. And that's my freedom.
Absolutely. I totally and utterly agree with you. And yes, I did have a chuckle when you mentioned the depression, because a lot of the time it's seen as a negative thing. And actually, depression comes to guide you.
Yes.
Guides to reshape your path. It comes to make you take time out. It comes to show you where you've been suppressing yourself, and also showing you where you need to rest.
Absolutely.
So I think depression is often seen as a negative, but actually there is a lot of positives that can come out of it if you are strong enough to acknowledge it as a process rather than being a definition of who you are. And I think that's another thing we can always take away from our language and the way we communicate, is what we feel is not who we are. What we feel is something we are processing as a human living in a human body.
So true. Yes, absolutely agree.
Thank you so much for joining us today and
you
sharing your journey about really living that true freedom, you know, taking off, going traveling, completely changing from corporate to all the woo-woo loveliness that I absolutely
yes.
just being you, because it's women like you in the world that are making changes for our next generation. And this is something I shared in a video today for International Women's Day, is actually I am so proud to be a woman in 2023, because we are changing the future for our children and the generations after. Same as when we go back to the 1950s and those women were standing there strong in their power, linked with arms. We will work and we will do what we want to do. We will not be controlled. And I really feel strongly at the moment that we are, as women, becoming together to shape the world in a much more open, accepting and loving way. And it's women like you and those that are listening that are making that change happen. And that is something I'm proud to be a part of. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your message. Thank you for sharing your journey. And thank you for raising the vibration and allowing more abundant chicks in the world, because I'm definitely down with the abundance. So for those listening, please let us know how you felt with our chat today. You can comment, you can jump in the inbox, you can go and click on the audio button where you can send me a voice message. You can jump over to my free group, the Women in Business Mindset Money Mojo, and you can come and check out Lais at abundantchicks.com. That's it for us today. We'll see you in another episode.